and right now I reside in Colorado Springs, Colorado. I was born in Council Bluffs, Iowa in 1921, December 9th, 1921, and I lived in Council Bluffs for about 10 years. My dad worked for the Union Pacific, and then after I think I was about 10 or 11, Dad lost his job with the Union Pacific, and we headed out into Nebraska, lived in several small towns, St. Paul, Grand Island, ended up in Hebron, Nebraska in my junior year in high school. And Dad was a commander. Dad had originally gone into the National Guards and worked his way up to a company commander, and then he got this job with the CCCs. You familiar with the CCCs? And he was commander there at the camp, and that's where I spent my junior and senior in high school. I'm, by the way, very athletic, and I played football, basketball, you name it. But at the end of my senior year, Dad was moved into headquarters in Omaha, and we moved to Omaha, and I spent my junior and senior year at Central High School in Omaha, Nebraska. Enjoyed it thoroughly. I met my wife in church, and at the time she was going steady with another fellow, and I started going steady with another girl in church there. Anyway, I finished high school that way, and we never, we were good friends, and, but that was just about it. And I went off to college. I got a football scholarship to go to a junior college, which was a military academy in Missouri, 4-year high school and 2-year junior college, and it was a great experience.
What'd you play?
Pardon?
What position?
I played quarterback and halfback.
What was the CCC camp? What kind of work were they doing there? At that
Oh, they did everything from digging ditches to cutting trees to most everything to do with the land. Basically what they did, whatever the government really wanted them to do. And anyway, at Wentworth, I did really well in all athletics, and I was very happy there. And in fact, I was the second student in Wentworth to ever become an officer in the second year. So I was pretty proud of that. But then at Wentworth, I was going to go to Iowa State, and I needed a couple courses to go in as an engineering student, junior. So I went to Omaha U. And that semester, played football, and of course then the war broke out in December, and I immediately put in for my commission.
Tell me about Pearl Harbor. Where were you?
I was there in Omaha U, and the Sunday that it happened, I was out driving around with Dorothy, I think, my wife, and wasn't my wife then, but and we heard it over the radio. And we immediately went on. I went back to the campus, and they had a meeting, and everybody at the campus went to the auditorium, and the president of the school told us what happened. And that's, of course, everybody knew then we're going to have to, we're in war, and we're going to have to get ready and go. So I had gotten my private pilot's license in Wentworth, so I was a flyer. But I got my commission in infantry.
At your ROTC time?
Yes.
Counted?
And I applied for it and got it, and I had to go to Fort Leavenworth, Kansas, and took a physical and took a written examination. Went back to Omaha and did not go back to college because I knew I was going to have to go on, and so I worked for Mauville, went out climbing poles for Mauville, which was a good job, $25 a week. And then I got word that I was commissioned, got my commission. And then it was a month later, and I went in March 13th of 42. I was called and went to Camp Roberts, California. As an infantry officer, was given 53 people off the streets and said that I got 30 days to prepare them for combat. And of course I was 21 years old, I think 20 or 21 years old, green. And I had a good tech sergeant, old-timer, and he took care of things. But then I, of course, put in for the Air Corps, And I told the commander there that I was going to probably go in the Air Corps. He didn't like it, but anyway, I finally got my orders. And I guess this was May or June of '42, got my orders and went to Santa Ana, California, and then went to primary training in Blythe, California, out in the desert in July and August. It was hot.
What were you flying there?
Little PT-22s. They were little single-engine, low-wing metal aircraft, and that was my first experience flying as far as the Air Corps, or well, the Air Corps it was called in those days. And the base was the first. We were the first class to go in there, and there were 4 of us, 2 lieutenants and 2 warrant officers going through in grade. The rest of them were cadets. And the only other officer was a commander, was a captain. And he called us in. He said, "I don't have any upperclassmen to help control things, so will you help me run the base?" And of course, naturally. So the cadets didn't particularly like that. They figured we were going through training the same as they were, and we ought to be handled the same way as cadets. They didn't think the fact that we had bars on our shoulders and we got those through legal means. But anyway, it went through fine, and then I went 2 months there.
Did anybody wash out at that time much?
Pardon?
Was anybody washing out of the program?
Oh yeah, there were some that didn't make it. They just weren't qualified to be pilots. They ground looped, and in their flying training that they got, they they just weren't pilots, weren't qualified to be pilots. And I went to basic Lemoore, California, and flew PT-13s, which is a single engine, stronger airplane.
Was that the Fulci or?
It was a
Operator?
it was a, I forget what, I don't know what PT-13s, they were a single engine low wing aircraft. And then I graduated after 2 months there. I went into Roswell, New Mexico, took advance, and I flew AT-9s and AT-17s, twin engine type aircraft. AT-9, we flew AT-17s. They brought in AT-9, which is a much faster, quicker airplane, and they picked, I think there were 10 of us, and I happened to be one of them. They picked to fly the AT-9, which we were happy with, and it was a fun airplane to fly and whatnot, and we enjoyed it. And then when I graduated, I knew I would be going into twin engines at least because of my twin engine training. And I asked, they asked you, what do you want to train? What do you want to fly? And my first pick was P-38s, which is a twin engine fighter, and I said second would be A-20s, which is a attacked airplane, probably 8 guns firing forward and whatnot, that they used at lower level bombing and strafing. And I got my orders, and it said A-20, so I thought, well, that's great. I thought that would be secondary. I'd be a lot of fun flying that thing, blasting away, And then I went to Tucson, Arizona, and I drove on the base, and I drove all the way around, and all I had was B-24s, 4-engine bombers. And I said, well, they've sent me to the wrong base. So I reported into the squadron, and that I was assigned, and went to the squadron commander, and he's a major. I said, Major, they sent me to the wrong base. And he pulled out the paperwork, and he went through and found my name, and he said, no, son, you're in the right place, and you're going to be flying B-24s.